Hi everyone, welcome to round 6 of the Paris 1900 tournament, and this is the first showdown between Frank Marshall and Emanuel Lasker. These two eventually play in a world championship match a few years later. Let's take a look at how their first matchup goes. So we have a Queen's Gambit. C6 is not the most normal move, but alright, E4. And actually, this type of E4 move is actually called the Marshall Gambit in the semi-Slav. So that's kind of interesting historically. And Carlsen actually used this opening, something like it, to beat Anand in their World Championship match. A3, bishop takes, queen a5, attacking the pawn, knight to e4. Now knight f3 was played. And clearly Marshall was thinking that knight takes c3 is too risky. So I just want to show this position because to me it was amazing. I mean, I just assume in this position black will play something like castles, or castles looks normal, bishop d7, knight c6, I don't know exactly what, but Lasker went for it. He had the courage, he took on c3, which seems crazy to me. But all right, after pawn, see, he missed this move, I think. He probably was looking at queen c2, and then something like pawn takes, knight takes, queen e5 check. However, the move pawn takes pawn is very strong, because now the knight is pinned, and we're simply threatening queen to c2. And black had no choice but to play knight takes d1, bishop takes a5. And now this knight is very close to being trapped, so he went knight b2 to escape. What move would you play here for white? I'm going to ask you guys a few questions in this video, but this is just spend a few seconds, figure out what move you would play here for white. Pause your video if you want. Yeah, basically, the key to this position now is this knight on b2. Can we trap it? And right now it's threatening to come out. It's coming out to a4. So white should play a4 to trap that, keep that knight trapped. And now we're threatening rook a2 to trap the knight. So black has really just one move. Can you see what move that is? Pause your video again, and let's try to calculate this move by move, because really, all the moves are pretty much forced. If you said bishop to d7, you were correct. So now the question is, what is white's next move? Yet again, it's a very difficult moment, and it requires some calculation. But what I like about this sequence of moves in this game is that every move is kind of like a forced calculation exercise. So at this point, white's natural move would be knight to e5, and after bishop takes a2, simply bishop c3, attacking the knight, and then winning a piece, because the knight can't move. However, black has a hidden resource here. Black has the move knight to c6, attacking the bishop, attacking the knight. And if knight takes bishop, knight takes bishop. And this knight will escape after knight e5, f6, followed by knight takes c4. So after knight takes knight here, bishop takes, all right, actually what's the best move? Oh no, bishop takes c3, sorry, bishop to c3, knight takes knight, bishop takes knight, black can play f6, and white may be a little better, but I think black is doing okay here actually. Black should be fine. I don't think there's any advantage. So knight e5 actually doesn't kind of work. But what's the key move in all these lines? Knight to c6 after knight e5. So he plays the brilliant c6 first. So now if knight takes c6, bishop c3, boom. That knight on b2 is in trouble. And after bishop takes, now knight e5, and all of a sudden there's no more knight takes c6 defense, and if this knight takes on a4, we take the bishop. And this knight on b2 is still in danger of being trapped. So my question to you guys here, final question, calculate what you would do here for black and white. How should this game go? You should spend probably at least 5 to 10 minutes on this, and it's very hard. I'm going to warn you guys in this one. Very, very hard. All right, I'm going to go over it with you now. It's just an extremely difficult calculation exercise. Black is okay, but it requires extreme precision and a very subtle move that you really wouldn't expect to be like the only move. Bishop e4 is correct, stopping rook to b1, and if rook to a2, black plays f6. So you take our rook, we take your knight. I'm sorry, if you take our knight, we take yours, and if you move the knight, we have knight d3 check. So we play f3. And now, after f3, you play... I'm sorry, I totally messed up the moves. White doesn't go f3 here. White goes bishop to c3. And now, black is forced to go f6. And now, white plays f3. So if pawn takes knight, pawn takes bishop, this knight is still trapped. This is the key move of the variation. The key move now, which is definitely a little bit subtle, bishop to f5. And you may wonder why. Well, in the game, the move went bishop c2. The game went bishop c2. And note that after bishop f5, g4, black will go bishop c2 anyway. So it's the same position, instead with the pawn on g2 or g4. Why is it important to entice g4? Well, after bishop c2, king to d1, we have this move knight to d1. And after king takes c2, knight e3 check, king d3, knight takes f1. Black is about to escape, but knight to g4, this knight is trapped on f1. So the key idea is, and it's pretty cool, is just entice g4, because that's the only retreat square for the knight. And now after bishop c2, king to d2, again, here we lose the knight, but knight to d1, king takes, and not knight c3 because of knight d3, and the knight is still trapped. But knight e3 check, king to d3, and note that on other moves, like if king to c1, the knight can come back to e3. So the king must come to d3, and now after this move, unfortunately for black, this knight has nowhere to go. And black is okay. So if you want to ever test your students' calculation abilities, and they're pretty strong, start from some position in this game. You can decide at any moment based on the strength of your players. I mean, you could even start here. Like, what should black do here and why? That's like the easiest version, although it's still extremely difficult. But I just like these kind of pure calculation exercises every now and then, and especially when a subtle move like bishop f5 is so important. But yeah, in the game, Lasker kind of just ended up losing a piece, and he has 3 pawns for it, but white's pieces are just much stronger, and white did win this game without too much trouble. It took a while, but Marshall took home the victory and dealt Lasker his first and only loss of the tournament. After this, Lasker went nuts and started crushing everybody, like he started the tournament doing. But these two guys have a match in a few years, and this is obviously a good start for Marshall in his series with Emanuel Lasker. So thanks guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. A really cool little calculation exercise there for sure. And I think Lasker really pushed his luck when he played knight takes c3. He may have just missed pawn takes c5, to be honest. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.